Hello everyone and welcome to the RV Inspection and Care channel. I'm Dwayne and I'm a certified RV inspector, and today we're going to be talking about comparing new Newmar and Tiffin Class A motorhomes that are gas powered. You know, when we talk about Newmar and Tiffin in the Class A category, well, you're talking about the very best. They're right at the top. And they have a great reputation, both of them, for quality and producing quality products. But let's compare them specifically in the area of gas-powered motorhomes. And actually, we'll start with the things that they have in common. The reason we do that is because they actually have a lot of things in common, way more things in common than probably differences. They're both built on the Ford chassis, for instance. It's a very good chassis. It's been around. It's been proven, so it's very good. They're both using the Ford 340 horsepower V8 engine this year, and so that's a change from the V10 of yesteryear. And they're both using the Ford torque shift transmission. So those are all very good things. And when you examine the things that they make in their factories, well, a lot of the furniture, cabinets, components inside the RV are actually made by the factory themselves. So there's a lot of similarity in the way that they are built too. In fact, there's way too many similarities to even mention. But we can talk about some of the differences, and that's where you may find some of the differences lend themselves more toward your style of camping and travel than others. So let's talk about Newmar. Well, Newmar builds two models in their gas-powered category. One is the Baystar, and the other is the Baystar Sport. Tiffin only builds one gas-powered RV at this point, and that's the Allegro Open Road. Now, Newmar is going to offer you, between the Baystar and the Baystar Sport, 11 different floor plans. So they're going to make sure you've got plenty to choose from. In those floor plans, you'll find one bunk floor plan in the Baystar Sport and one in the Baystar itself. Tiffin, on the other hand, is not going to offer you quite as much in the area of floor plans. It offers 5 altogether, but it does have a bunk plan in there. So both of them have bunk plans to choose from, but you have a lot more selection in floor plans from Newmar. Now let's talk about each one of these models and their features that are good to compare. Let's start with the Baystar Sport. And the thing that's really notable about the Sport is that it starts with a 30 amp electrical service for a Class A motorhome. Now, why? Well, because basically the features that it comes with includes only one AC unit. So you really don't need that 50 amp service. And the length of the Baystar Sports really doesn't demand much more than that, because it starts around 27 feet long and goes up to 33 feet. So you can really have a really small Class A, or a really short one that can fit in all kinds of places with the Baystar Sport. And when you're talking about something that's that short in length, well, you don't really need much more than one AC unit. Now, let's also talk, though, about the tires. With the tire situation, it's a 19.5-inch tire. And we'll talk a little bit more about that and what that means as we go along. Now, let's talk about the water and waste tank situation. Well, Newmar is going to offer you the same either way that you go. Either the Baystar Sport or the Baystar will have a fresh tank with 75-gallon limit. It'll have a gray tank with a 60-gallon limit and a black tank with 40 gallons of limit in what it can hold. So keep that in mind as well. Now, the interior, well, let's show you what the interior looks like of a Baystar Sport. And as you can see here, it looks nice, but it is a very basic interior. There's nothing here that you would consider luxurious or upgraded at this point. Very well appointed, and in general, their fit and finish is still good, even in these lower cost units. Now, what is the cost of a Baystar Sport? Well, it's going to be starting around $150,000 and going up to somewhere around $180,000. At least that's the way it looks at this point. Now, let's go to the Baystar, and let's see how we can compare what we just saw in the Baystar Sport with what's in the Baystar. Now, the number one thing here that you're going to see is a big difference right off is that you move to a 50 amp electrical service with the Baystar. And that's because it comes standard with 2 AC units. So you really need the 50 amp service. Why do you need that? Well, because the length is going to increase here as well in the Baystar. Now, you start around 30 feet and it can go up to 38 feet long. So you can see why 2 ACs could be very advantageous in many of those floor plans. Now, the tire situation, again, we're talking about 19.5-inch tires. That's not really a major situation, but just keep it in mind because we're going to compare that to Tiffin very soon. And of course, the freshwater, gray water, and black water tanks are the same in either the Sport or the regular Baystar. But now let's take a look at the interior of a Baystar. And as you can see here, it's a nicer interior. It's definitely upgraded. Once again, you're not really looking at the super luxurious interior of, say, a diesel pusher, like the Dutch Star or something along that line. But nevertheless, very nice interior. Definitely upgraded from the Baystar Sport. The cost of a Baystar starts around $190,000 and it goes up to about $230,000 new. All right, now it's time to take a look at Tiffin's offering of the open road Allegro. So right off the bat, Tiffin doesn't really give you much different options on the electrical service. It's going to be 50 amp all the way, and that's nice because they're going to put 2 ACs on their unit regardless of the size. When we're talking about size, they start around 34 feet and go up to 38 feet. So the open roads tend to be a little longer, a little bigger in general than some of the Newmar offerings. Remember, Newmar can go all the way down to 27 feet in the Baystar Sport. So if you're looking for a smaller Class A, Newmar wins the competition there. But if you're looking for a larger one, well, then either Newmar or Tiffin can fit that bill. Now on the tires, with the open road Allegro, it's a 22.5-inch tire, like you usually find on diesel pushers. What is the difference? Why? Newmar has the 19.5s, Tiffin uses the 22.5. Well, again, that's not a huge difference, but there's a lot of people who say that they feel it's a much nicer ride or comfortable ride on the 22.5-inch tires rather than 19.5. So just give that some consideration. Now, on the water and waste tank situation, let's make that comparison. On the fresh tank with Tiffin, you get a 70-gallon limit. With the gray tank, it's 66 gallons as opposed to 60 with Newmar. And on the black tank, it's a 50-gallon limit compared to the 40-gallon with Newmar. So what becomes pretty clear here is that in the waste tank area, you've got a little advantage going on here with Tiffin. So for folks that like to boondock a little bit, well, then you might really want to seriously think about the Tiffin because of having that extra waste tank storage. Now, what kind of price do we have here for the Tiffin Open Road Allegro? Well, it starts around $200,000 and can go up as high as $270,000. Okay, so now when we stop and think about that. We've started with the Newmar Baystar Sport around $150,000 new. And we can go all the way up to $270,000 or so new with the open road Allegro. So that's kind of what you have to choose from. Let's talk a little bit about online reviews now. And I've reviewed a lot of their reviews to kind of see what people are saying about these models. And honestly, what I seem to glean is that there's a lot of fans of all of these models. Yes, there's some complaints, but honestly, there's going to be complaints from almost any RV model or brand that's made out there. But there's nothing out of the ordinary here. I don't see any major complaints coming, at least in the last few years, about new Newmar and Tiffin gassers. So pretty much an even wash there. One thing I want you to keep in mind, though, is that Newmar has been bought out in the recent years by Winnebago, and Tiffin has been bought out by Thor. And there's been some concern about that in the RV industry. Are they going to be able to maintain their quality, their reputation for building a really good product after having these other companies buy them? And I think there's a little more concern maybe about the idea that Thor has bought Tiffin, because Thor has not really been known for producing really high quality, higher end products. So the honest truth is we really don't know what's going to happen. At this point, it appears that Winnebago and Thor are leaving Newmar and Tiffin alone. They're letting them go ahead and build the way they always have. So we'll just have to see if that remains that way going forward. Now, one thing I want to also mention is that in this day and age, if you're going to buy new, well, almost all brands are having some kind of quality control problems. Sometimes it's related to the supply issue. Sometimes it's of their own making, but there are quality control issues. So my recommendation is that if you're looking to buy a new Newmar or Tiffin gas-powered motorhome, don't just rely on the reputation of either one of them. Get an RV inspection before you take delivery of that RV. And that way you'll know exactly what you've got. If there are issues, then you give that list to the dealer and tell him, I'm ready to take delivery as soon as those problems are all worked out. And if you do that, then you'll put the odds on your side that you're going to have a great RV from the very first day of camping. How do you choose here? Well, here's my thoughts on the subject. First of all, price. Because remember, if you're really, you've got a budget you've got to stick to closely, and you've got to watch that budget, well, then maybe the Baystar Sport would be a great place to start, right around $150,000 for brand new for the quality of a Newmar. Well, that's a lot to say. Then on the other hand, though, it moves from there $150,000 all the way up to say $270,000. So you've got a lot of area to play with there for budgets. So first thing is probably look at the price. The next thing is consider the floor plans. Remember, with Newmar, you've got 11 floor plans to choose from between the Baystar Sport and the Baystar. That's a lot. With Tiffin, you only have 5. So which floor plan appeals to you out of that group? How about length? That's a big one, because if you're looking for a smaller RV, brand new Class A RV, well, Newmar has got you covered in that area. The Baystar Sport really has some nice smaller models. They're not nearly as long as others. But then if you're looking for the longer models, well, then either Newmar or Tiffin can satisfy that in the 34 to 38 foot range. So that's another way to compare. Then how about the distance between you, or where the RV is, and the factory service center. That's something for you to consider because you're going to have a full 1-year warranty either way you go. So why not be able to really make use of it? Don't get too far away from the factory service center. This can be a really big concern, especially in today's RV industry. So consider that. All of these things are things that you should consider when you're thinking about buying either a Newmar or a Tiffin. The good news is, well, pretty much either way you go, you're probably going to get a great product, and that's really good. So at this point, let me invite you, if you have any more points that you'd like to add about the comparison between Newmar and Tiffin gassers, or if you have more questions about the comparison, please enter it in the comments below, and I'd love to be able to see that. Well, that's it for now. Have safe and happy travels, my friends. Until next time.